Hi, I am Alok Soni and we are all set for the session on importance of AI for business leaders today. To set the context, we all know and keep hearing that data is the new oil and AI is the new electricity. As we approach 2020, the impact of AI will only be magnified, and in organizations, it's not only up to the technical team to make AI initiatives a success, but business leaders are equally responsible. So, what is the typical life cycle to execute an AI project? How can business leaders make the most of AI initiatives in their organizations? To give us a bigger picture, we have with us Sameer Dhanrajani and Harish Subramanian. Sameer is the CEO of AI Curate, a bespoke AI advisory and consulting firm. He is a globally recognized AI advisor, business builder, evangelist, and thought leader known for his deep knowledge, strategic consulting approaches in AI space. He is also a renowned columnist, blogger, and four-time TEDx speaker, and the author of the best-selling book AI and Analytics: Accelerating Business Decisions. Sameer has prior leadership stints at Fractal Analytics, Cognizant Technology Solutions, Fidelity National Finance, and Genpact. Harish is the director at Great Learning, India's leading edtech platform for working professionals. At Great Learning, he focuses on the growth strategy and new product development. Prior to this, Harish worked at the Boston Consulting Group and was the COO and executive director of African Leadership Network. Welcome to your story, Sameer and Harish.
Thank you.
So we keep hearing about that AI is going to take over the jobs of human beings, right? To what extent is this true? And to what level is it going to impact the mid and senior level jobs? Sameer, we can start with.
So, look, let me build a perspective out here on this ever high rhetoric against AI and the jobs displacement. First, if we look at one of the survey which McKinsey published some time back, of the 1.8 million jobs which will be lost because of automation and new technologies, 2.2 million jobs will be created afresh. And that's something we're talking about from next 3 to 4 years horizon, which is a net addition of almost 500,000 jobs. But all of these jobs, however, will be in the new age side of the things. So what we have to realize, if we take some precedent from the earlier revolutions, every revolution has challenged the job status quo. And this is what we are even facing with AI. What it means today is that we are talking about the transactional, menial nature of the jobs getting more automated, which means as humans, we have an option to augment our intelligence, which also means the job per se in terms of how the whole construct of the job will be changed. And that's exactly happens in every revolution. Now, when we talk about AI revolution or any last 4 revolutions, the top and the bottom gets impacted I would say predominantly. And that's where we are talking about, one, the strategic nature of the leadership getting changed. Second, the whole aspect of the base of the pyramid jobs getting more enhanced in terms of what we say that human beings are meant to do more productive, meaningful work. Now, this is the time where we are challenging everyone to say how they can remain relevant by upskilling or reskilling themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you, Sameer. I think, and this is not new, right? The idea of changing jobs, the revolution or evolution of jobs, as Sameer mentioned. When things got digitized, mailrooms went away, right? That doesn't mean that all of those people were perennially unemployed, right? Their roles changed. People started having executive assistants that were more digital, right? People who were looking at, digital mail, email, and all of that stuff. So roles have always evolved. With AI, with automation, we're going to see the same thing. Some people are going to adapt and they're going to be the ones that thrive. Some people are not going to adapt and they're going to struggle, right? And there's going to be a whole layer of enabling, enterprises, whether, it could be on the learning side, it could be on the skilling and staffing side, it could be on the recruitment side, right? That are going to work on kind of restructuring this entire industry, right? And coming to your question of whether senior people are affected, senior people are always affected, right? If you're a decision maker, every change in the industry matters to you. If it doesn't matter to you personally in your role, it matters to your team, and therefore it still matters to you. As a decision maker, it's hard to get away from any seismic change.
What is the depth of understanding, depth of skills and knowledge which are required for a professional at mid to senior level to build and execute vital roadmaps according to you?
here's how I think about it, right? As anybody who's anywhere between mid to senior level at any company or whatever, right? You have to worry about the what, the when, and the why of any of these decisions, right? You may not worry about the how. The algorithmic side, right? How do I write the code? How do I build the model? How do I deploy the model? That might be an engineering team. That might be a data science team. But whether you should do it, right? What is the right technique? What is the right time? Right? When should you do this? And why should you be doing this? A lot of those decisions have to lie with managers, and they do lie with managers, right? Thing like if you're a manager, you're inevitably going to have to worry about, am I using AI the wrong way, right? Am I just using AI as a general purpose tool when I could just be, using Excel, right? These are the kinds of questions you have to worry about, right? An engineering team comes and proposes a project based on a proof of concept and says it's going to take a year and a few $1 million. Are they bluffing? Are they telling you the truth, right? Is it a 1 week job or a 1 day job or 1 month job or a 1 year job, right? Does this particular scenario warrant a quick proof of concept, or does it warrant a full-blown solution? Should I be using deep learning for everything because everybody's talking about it? Right? There are hundreds of such questions that every single decision maker is faced with, and it all seems like Greek and Latin right now, right? Because it's all just jargon, and that's the degree to which I think every manager, every decision maker, at a minimum, needs to be comfortable with AI. Of course, nobody's going to you're always going to get an advantage if you can go deeper, right? And every decision maker, their decisions are respected, and you're able to make really good decisions if you can go deep. But this is the minimum, right? If you don't understand the what, the when, the why, the trade-offs and things like that, you're going to be in trouble. And that comes either from a lot of experience, right? Or it comes from talking to a lot of other people, right? You could be talking to your peers, you could be talking to other industry professionals, you could try and bring examples from other industries. And if there's a way to shortcut it, great, but you have to learn this one way or the other, right? That's where I kind of draw the line.
Let me put a spin to this, Alok, to your question, and I'll take it from where Harish left. One is a factual aspect. A $177 billion export of technology from India, growing at a CAGR of 10 to 12%. 4 million technology workforce, a very large workforce, and almost 70% of them today need reskilling. These are the published figures available in the public domain. So I don't think so there is any iota of doubt whether reskilling should happen or not. And a lot of that reskilling of the workforce we are talking about has to be the new age skills. And that's where AI takes a precedence over any other technologies, period. I don't think so there is any kind of a contentious issue over there. Look, I'll give an example today. Swiggy processes about 1.4 million orders a day. Instagram crashes when Jennifer Aniston loads her photograph and announces her entry into Instagram. Alibaba does close to about $40 billion worth of sales in one single day. Now imagine if the platforms are not strong, the data platforms, the data engineering kind of aspects, the data pipes are not strong. There is no way algorithms of AI can be built. And that's where it's a very often neglected aspect, but AI is AI. We're talking about image, voice, text, video over there, which is, to me, it's sophistication of analytics. But data engineering is another aspect which is today very much topical, required as part of building the best of the data pipes over there. Third piece, which is important as part of this trifactor, I call it, is the design piece. Apple wouldn't have been Apple if the design wasn't that minimal. And we've always neglected what we say behavioral science aspect, because AI needs adoption, and behavioral science is that catalyst for adoption. Think of this. Governments today have done everything to stop jaywalking. AI cannot solve that. Somewhere behavioral aspect of your photo getting clicked, a screeching noise getting actually displayed on the audio, and your photograph says over there when you look, that look, you've been hit by a car, notionally. That's behavioral science, where they are trying to cultivate a fear of jaywalking when it shouldn't happen. So they have the data, they have the design, but somewhere that behavioral science also creeps in. So if we look at this trifactor, I think that's where the next level of what I say skilling will evolve.
So we discussed about AI, we discussed about upskilling. How do people go about it? If I have to today increase my depth of knowledge, which we all agree to is a dire need of, everyone needs to. How do I go about it, Harish?
I think the first place people need to start is to say, what is my current role? Right? What are my strengths? What are my passions? Where do I stand now? And kind of make a gentle sideways step from there, right? And saying, let me extend from there, rather than completely just throw everything out of the window and reinvent myself, right? I think that's a great first step. A second piece of this will be, as I was alluding to earlier, I think learning from the world itself, right? Because you by yourself are not going to be able to learn enough from just theoretical knowledge or conceptual knowledge, right? So learning by examples, learning from experts. 100 people out there have made 100 different mistakes each, right? So that's 10,000 mistakes you could learn from, right? So learning from industry experts, there are going to be a lot of things that are on the ground, right? So I'll give you a quick example. When I was with BCG, I used to do a lot of work with banking clients, right? And in the US and some parts of Europe around the time of 2008, 2009, and there were a lot of regulations that prevented people from using black box algorithms, right? So let's say neural networks really well. Your team is top-notch data science team, right? It would help you a lot if you knew that neural nets weren't allowed for certain credit decisioning algorithms, right? If you can't make loan process decisions based on neural networks, you should not be using it. It's a simple, you don't even have to understand neural nets to know that, right? But if you talk to Samir for 2 minutes and he knows this because he's worked with clients, right? I'm now going to take that knowledge and say, hey, you know what? I have a lot of context. Before you start, don't use this, this, and this. Go, right? I've just saved $1 million in 10 man weeks or whatever, right? That's the kind of contextual understanding from industry experts, from professionals who have already done this, that actually helps a lot.
Well, I think a lot of that what you said, Harish, makes sense. And in a lighter vein, Alok, to your question, I would say go back to school. We need a national skills registry, which is important in terms of database of the professionals who have taken courses, learning programs, specifically in the new age learning programs, where we can actually, the organizations can do a rack and stack in terms of if they are at L1, can we make them L2 and onwards. Third is very true to the point what you said, alluding to what you said. I think the need of the hour today is not just conceptual learning, but contextual learning. So any kind of a, let's say, professional who's aspiring to get into new age skills like data science, AI, it's more important for him or her, or even for a student who's a rookie or a fresher, to be in front of a Kaggle or a GitHub. Yeah. Or even to the extent knowing what are the examples today, how AI is solving those large complex problems. Not many people are aware that AI is being deployed to solve Swachh Bharat campaign, which is a piece around kind of looking at the hygiene of the restrooms, taking those images, labeling, annotating, and it goes to the command center. 45 seconds later, it goes to the pertinent contractor without any manual intervention. Go and fix this thing. So there are some great things happening within from our country perspective, and also from a contextual side, the learnings on Kaggle, GitHub, supplemented with the conceptual learning courses, what they're trying to undertake, will actually make them, what I say, a potent combination in terms of starting somewhere. And if we have that National Skills Registry, that database will give us a peep in terms of how we can actually look at deploying them in the future projects and organizations.